Welcome to Truth in Politics, presented by ONV, Our Neutral Voices. And we're here tonight to talk about politics, and we want to teach you and inform you to learn how to use politics for your gain and the gain of our community. And I thank you for joining us, and we have my co-host with us tonight, Miss Audrey Davis. Hey, Audrey, how are you tonight?
Hey, Clarence, doing well.
That's good.
Super excited to be here.
That's good. That's good. We're glad to have you here.
Yes.
To input into the show, and everything is well needed. But we have a guest tonight. You want to introduce our guest tonight, Miss Audrey?
I do. I have recently become friends with this gentleman to my right. His name is Ramadan Abdul-Azeez, longtime leader and member of the Fort Wayne community. And I also think it's worth noting that his name is also the entire month, one of the entire months of the Islamic calendar.
It's the ninth. Is it the ninth?
The ninth month, right? And also like is a period of reflection and fasting and rejuvenation and celebration. And so before we get into kind of what you think politically and the unique perspective you can bring to us understanding Fort Wayne politics, tell us about how you got this amazing name of Ramadan Abdul-Azeez.
You know, before you become a Muslim, you have to make what's called your shahada. Your shahada is a declaration that I won't tell you exactly what the declaration means, but it does basically signify that you will follow the Islamic tenets. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, my grandfather then named me Ramadan.
Okay. That's interesting. Amazing. That's good. Well, Ramadan, we're going to get into this conversation, and we want to talk about, first of all, a little bit about the past. We're not going to go, in history. We're going to just talk recent past. We just had another election year.
Yes.
And our mayor, is this his fifth term, I believe?
It is his
fifth term.
Yes.
So the last 4 years, let's just go with the last 4 years. Is there any gain, or has there been any changes or anything that moved the city forward under his helm?
Yeah, there's a lot that's been done. A lot of money's been spent. Excuse me. Excuse my voice. Sometimes it will crack because I'm getting over a cold.
Okay.
But a lot of money has been spent. A lot of activity, building activity. The cityscape has changed. And I think that's been in a positive direction. There's been development all around the whole city of Fort Wayne. Now, some people are critical of the kind of development that's been done, but I would say that on balance, all the city has been touched.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm glad you mentioned that we might see it at a slanted view or a sloped view, because we can say, and we have said it, and it's a lot of people that say that, okay, we see beautification everywhere. We see minimum and it's just upkeep that we see, because they redid the sewer system on the southeast side of town. They added some sidewalks, some easements, and different things, but the exponential growth, we can say, that we haven't seen in our direction. So what about the southeast side of town? And we would all say, and everybody say, well, why are we the last to get out of the till or whatever?
Why are we the last?
Yes.
Now, that's a really good question. I remember attending an earlier State of the City address, and that same question was asked. And I do recall, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I do recall the mayor saying that it was unfortunate the kind of condition that the Southeast, was experiencing, and that typically, unfortunately, historically, development on the Southeast had been last. Mm-hmm. And I'm paraphrasing. And he said that, and unfortunately, that's going to continue.
Ooh.
And I thought it's an honest statement. I thought also it was telling for the future. And I don't know if people would admit that they heard him say that, but I definitely remember that being said. And true to form, it has happened in that way. And the development, this happened, and I've been noted as saying that, although it's been beautiful And in many cases, you look at the Wayne Trace roundabout
Yes.
and the viaduct being well lit,
Right.
and a couple of other viaducts haven't been, lit for that signifies the south and the east transition.
Yes.
I mean the south and the north transition. There's also been some cosmetic things done in the parks, etc. So those things are really nice. What makes it imbalanced is that there is a lot of commerce.
True.
Right, a lot of real commerce being being in place. Okay, and downtown.
Yeah.
Actually, I think even Harrison rivals Main Street. If you start from the Grand Wayne Center going north, you're going to run into a round of shops
Right.
that were never there.
Right. Right.
And you take that all the way down to the river, and it's basically almost kind of a brick road, to prosperity. When you get to Promenade Park, it's nothing like anything we've ever seen or had.
Right. So that is true. And when you said that, he said, because I heard the mayor say a couple of things too. I was at a election town hall meeting at the McMillan Center a few years ago, and this is when he ran the last term. Before he finished his last term, he was running against Tim Smith.
Yes.
And we were sitting there, and we were talking about the food desert. Now, we're going to give it credit. They did put a grocery store in the inner city off of Pontiac, so that eased the food desert, but it didn't solve the problem. But they asked him about the food desert, and the mayor boldly said, "We gave you a Taco Bell."
We gave you a Taco Bell?
Yeah, the Taco Bell. So it's not surprising that he would say that.
Yeah.
So let's look at where we are now. So not only just the mayor, because the mayor is, I know he's the head of the city, but there's cabinets and there's different other entities that run the city. Let's talk about the city council and the county council. How have they been performing in the last few years?
Well, that's a tough one. You really have to pay attention. Okay, and someone asked me recently about certain legislation. Hasn't why hasn't it changed, or why hasn't conditions changed? Well, there are 9 city council people.
Yes.
Okay, and before this election, there were 5 Republican members of city council and 4 Democrats.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is a simple majority?
A simple majority would be having 51% of the vote.
Exactly.
Right.
It's half plus 1.
Right.
Okay. So what you have in the makeup of city council is half, 4 and 4, and 1.
Right.
So the simple majority has a tendency to win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so even though there may be some work behind the scenes, that there's some negotiations behind the scenes, in truth, whenever there's a vote for something to go forward or legislation to go forward by city council, they'll be outvoted. The Democrats are likely to be outvoted. Republicans are going to see things a little bit differently, and they're going to win.
Right.
Although I do have to say, like, in the last 4 years particularly, I think I've seen a lot more of the kind of strategy that has to happen in order to, start to help see eye to eye across the aisle. A lot of the Democrats that were on city council up until this last election, and, 3 of whom are still there, now it's 6-3, which is interesting. I'm interested in hearing your opinion on that. But, a lot of what they started to do was show what it looks like to be a collaborator and to be an influencer and a relationship builder in order to get consensus on some bills. But, yeah, you're right. It has been an uphill battle to see, still that stronghold on every part of our city, county, and state government, Republican-led.
Yeah.
I don't want to skip past something you said. but I want to make sure for clarification. So we know, you're saying there's 6 Democrats now?
No,
Several-
there's six
six Republicans.
Republicans.
6 Republicans. Okay. So it's 6 Republicans to 3 Democrats.
Yes.
So they have the major majority.
Now they have major majority.
Super majority, if you like. Yes, they do.
Oh, wow.
What you're thinking, when you think about, when we're talking about downtown development, when we're talking about the ways we've seen the arc of the city grow and, still needing quite a bit of emphasis in the southeast side, when you think of now this new makeup of the city council,
Yes.
what, if anything, are you particularly concerned that will start to become, hot topic or, agenda setting items that we were hoping kind of wouldn't become?
Okay, so one of the tenets that you typically find in with and I don't know this for a fact because they just started this,
Right.
but what I've experienced is that Republicans tend to like private money and no public money, or very little public money to start projects. So when projects happen and they talk about a public-private partnership, they really want private partnership. So what you are going to run into, maybe it depends on how politics works. And I'm understanding that there might be a better cooperation, but not it won't be across the board. But you're likely to see a lot more private money driving through
Right.
the decision making.
Right.
Okay, so you have a mayor that's a Democrat. You have six Republican city council members, and you have three sitting
Right.
Democrat council members. Okay, so the vote. This is the part that people really don't grab. It's not that the Democrats are not doing their job. They do their job. But when the vote comes down, they have to work that much harder to get some Republicans to vote, in a way that is beneficial, that they believe is beneficial to the city. So they would have to sway the voting. That's where politics really comes in.
Right.
And I think some of the long-term city council members that had been there for almost 2 decades and were used to that collaborative style, like a Tom
Yes.
Whittier, Glenn Hines, with new freshmen coming on board, Nathan Hartman, I think is his name, and
No, Nathan's been there. Nathan Hartman was there.
was already in the city council before,
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was.
because he was uncontested in the 5th district, was it?
No,
No,
the 5th district.
3rd district.
I don't remember what district. I know that Democrat Jeff Paddock is 5th district.
Correct.
I know that Sharon Tucker is 6th district, and I also know that
Michelle Chambers is at large.
Is at large.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know exactly what Nathan Hartman's district is. Actually, to me, it's almost irrelevant because he's not going to vote my way.
Right. Right.
But he was on city council before.
Okay.
Yeah. But so we had Mr. Deutsch on here. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify. I wanted to point out the balance. You understand? Thank you. I want to point out the balance that we have, or the imbalance that we have. You asked about city council,
Right.
and I'm telling you, if you try to run anything, and I do have to run things, not on city council, but
Right.
other
Publicly.
Yes.
I mean, in the public sector and things such as that. Gotcha.
Okay. A vote is really important.
Yes.
Okay, so whether something gets done or not, the vote has to be taken, and each one of those members is representative of a certain direction, political direction that people want to take.
Right.
So that's something that I think that we have to pay attention to when we don't vote.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
go
just
ahead.
also another quick clarification. Nathan Hartman ran previously, but he's never sat on city council. So he is in District 3, and he ran uncontested this year and won 100% of the vote. And in 2019, he was one of 3 that ran for the Republican at-large seats, and didn't get that vote. But,
Okay.
So he's not a total freshman to the political scene, but he's a freshman to governing.
Okay.
As well as,
He did serve on the redevelopment commission, however.
Oh, okay. He's been on some commissions and boards.
Yes.
Are there any other freshmen on city council that are kind of coming in totally new?
Yes, there's.
Yeah, whoever took Tom Didier's seat, because didn't
That's Nathan Hartman.
Okay.
No, it's not. I don't have your notes, but we do have one. I think his name's Mike. Mike.
I'll look up Fort Wayne City Council. You'll probably know this, but go ahead, Clarence.
Yeah, but even with that, we had John Deutsch on the show. We had a show with John Deutsch, and he was talking about the lack of in Fort Wayne government or the mayoral office. And you had spoke about this at one point in time.
It's a major issue for me.
Yes, and that's why I wanted to touch bases with you on that. Mr. Deutsch stated that he had mentioned to the mayor, I think the previous term, that he should look at either putting a person in color as the deputy mayor or some higher up office, or a female, but he's yet to do that. Is there any diversity in Mayor Henry's cabinet, for lack of a better word?
The answer to that is no. And I would feel a lot better if the ratio was represented, the ratio of the makeup of the city
Right.
was representative in his administration. Now, the mayor has argued from day one that he's looking for best qualified. He's not focusing on any racial balancing of any type or any diversity initiative. He's trying to find the best qualified people. The problem is that when he became mayor, there was a mass exodus of diversity off of his administration.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so when that doesn't get addressed or resolved, and let me help you understand this. I moved here 40 years ago. Okay, and so the first mayor that I've ever been introduced to was
Graham Richards?
no, before that, Democrat.
Win Moses?
Yes, Will
Okay.
Moses. And I didn't see the diversity in his cabinet, his administration. It was Paul Helmke that I first saw a diverse administration. I'm talking about decision makers and high wage earners. Now, this is where my issue comes in. High wage earners, decision makers within the administration, the mayor's administration. So if you can look back a little bit, you'll remember that Paul Helmke had a black public safety
Yes.
officer.
Yes.
He had a black police chief. He also had a black chief information officer
Yes.
working in charge of all the information technology.
Right.
He also had some black human resource people. All right. And he was Republican. All right. So we had to get off this notion that Republicans don't like black people.
Right.
Right. And then after his term, in came Graham Richards, who did not dismantle that. Graham Richards was a Democrat.
Yes.
So he didn't dismantle the makeup. As a matter of fact, he replenished it. He basically doubled down on that and made certain that there was a diversity of high wage earning, diverse decision makers in his administration. And they were qualified. They were qualified. Now, me, myself, I have an advanced degree. I don't want to work for the city.
I got you.
But I have a lot of friends that have advanced
Right.
degrees. And, you know, I don't know if they're interested or not, but I do know that there's never been a mention that there was a desire to have diversity inside of the Henry administration. Okay?
Yes.
So that's as clear as I can get to.
And you made some valid points, and you brought up some valid things when you were mentioning that, because you would think in all cabinets at all levels of government that it should be indicative of the population, at least some representation of all that is, you know, that is being served.
Yeah.
And our city is a good size, but, you know, it's not a metropolis, but there could be at least 2 to 5 people in a highway journey or a decision-making position that could be of different Hispanic, male, female. Even we have a growing Burmese population or whatever that would be representative of what we look at in the city.
Yes.
But that's
But he
the
doesn't
thing.
see that.
Well, okay, so let's say that I ran something, right? And I have people who are high performing already. Do I fire them? Exactly. So you got to ask you, have I ever run anything? See, as if you've run something, you know this person, you know what they're capable of, you install them, and they continue to perform. Are you going to rebalance because of what?
That's a great point of view.
I think that sometimes I think that when you're asserting a particular position, that sometimes you have to take a different angle and also put yourself in the shoes of the people of the other side. Mm-hmm. So I'm not exonerating the mayor.
True.
What I'm saying is that might be easier to do might be harder to do than the way we're saying it. Because if there's no basis except for I'm refreshing my stock, you know.
Right.
Yeah, there could be lawsuits all over the place.
Which is like purely a law of gravity. I mean, if there's something in motion and we don't have a force of equal,
Right.
you know, capacity to either redirect or stop, it'll continue to be the same.
Correct.
Which is why, you know, the voting history of our community plays a huge role into determining whether or not the legislators reflect the electorate, you know? So when you think about gentrification particularly, I've heard a lot of people talk about Southeast Side as like, oh, we are really worried that like Starbucks and this Pontiac grocery store that was sponsored by the city and all these other inroads are all owned by other people. Therefore, we will start to be, you know, etched out of our own community, and this will become more and more of like the next Google corridor where everybody wants to be around murals and ethnic communities. Do you worry about that at all?
On the Southeast? Mm-hmm. Gentrification? Okay. Now, this one was a tough one. Initially I say no. I'm not really concerned about it. To be honest with you, the majority of the properties that are owned on the Southeast Side are not owned by its inhabitants.
Right.
The residents of the properties, the houses that you see in many neighborhoods are rental properties.
Yes.
And there are large swaths of business owners, property
Correct.
owners
Yes.
that are landlords. All right. Gentrification would mean that they'd have to sell the properties to people who want to buy their homes.
Right.
Right. And then it would then spur on an economy that would grow the tax base of the Southeast Side and contribute to a lot of the private money or the public money that is being spent today. Gentrification would destabilize those business owners. I don't think those business owners are interested in letting go of the ready money,
Right.
Of those rental properties.
Right.
I don't see any evidence of that.
Even if they, you know, I mean, Indiana is the second highest in the country for outside developers coming in and
Yes.
buying up huge swaths
Right.
of land and of properties. So, I guess they all will have their price, but you're saying it would be a while before somebody would try to be hitting with that kind of price tag.
Okay, so let's take a look at another area, though. Let's take a look at electric works.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, there's a major development adjacent to a fairly mature neighborhood
Yes, a historical neighborhood.
on the north part, but not necessarily on the west part, on the south part.
Yes.
So these are not the best homes in the best shape, or people with a high wage earning. What do you think is going to happen to their tax base as time goes on with electric works? Because it's a multi functioning piece of property now,
System, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're paying taxes 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because it had to be a tax abatement to spur it on, then 10 or 20 years from now, what's going to happen to those residences, those homes, and the people who own or live in those homes?
Mm-hmm.
The tax base is going to increase significantly.
Yes.
And they either meet it or they have to go.
Which spurs on gentrification.
Yeah. And that's already starting in that area. You see some houses that are shells, and they're going for hundreds of thousands of dollars because they know the rehab and all of that would, bring forth a greater tax base and income. But since we're on tax basis, and we also mentioned this to Mr. Deutsch, and we've talked about this before. They say our tax base in this southeast side of town is not as great as other areas because the home ownership is lower on this end of town.
Uh-huh.
But in the grand ideal or the scheme of things, the taxes go into one pot. That's how we ideally look at it. Most people think it goes. So why wouldn't it be equally distributed among each of the neighborhoods?
There's a term that you hear often in economic development, and it's called public-private partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And what that indicates is that private money infuses, or I should say, inspires public money.
Mm-hmm.
So you start a project. The city doesn't have this money all the time, okay, but private people do. So we had the Bradley Hotel
The Pearl.
and the Pearl next to it,
Right.
and Starbank across the street, Ash Brokerage, not too far from that.
And Ashbury soon.
Yes. So with all the development that's taking place, where private money started the project, and then now public money is able to be added to it. This is when you start to see these kinds of things take place. Now you have to identify on the southeast side, where has any private money been invested to create this wave of public investment?
Have there been any? Like, is the Roosevelt Reserve a public-private partnership? Or
It is.
It is. Okay.
It
There
is.
are some.
Well, there's one.
That's one.
Okay, let's
Just
be
go with the
careful.
one.
I named about 4 or 5 different public-private partnerships
Downtown.
downtown.
Yeah.
And you named one
Right.
on the southeast.
And the only other thing is, we're going to talk about is Prosperity. What is it now? It's not Prosperity Point.
It's not even Roosevelt. It's not even Premier Village now. It's like I think it's Parkview, but not Parkview,
Well, I don't know. 'Cause
Parkside,
Yeah,
or something like that.
and that is just and one of the things we talked about previously is we get more low income housing than we do.
It's mixed use.
Is it mixed use?
It's mixed use.
Okay, but and we're not gonna hold you long, Ramadan, and I know your voice is going and
I'm okay. I'm all right.
But one of the things that we wanted to talk about and we're talking about is how can we as a community, and I know finances, private investment will help us get political equity again. But how do we go about gaining that or getting in the mindset of all of us, let's get a pot together. Let's put something in, and let's all start something to build out of that. And then we can begin to grasp that equity in the political party and the tax base and all of that we need to enhance our community.
Oh, Clarence, it's like a genie in the bottle, man. You know, this is a big
Am
one.
I asking the impossible?
No, but there are steps to this one. You know, look, I have my own perspectives. I do my research. I look into things, and some things I'm involved in. Okay, but this one that you're talking about how can there be private investment growing out of the Southeast and beginning to change the political landscape? Is that
Yes.
okay? Which it would first have to you have to create bankable businesses, business owners, right? I'm not going to say bankable people. I'll say bankable companies, right? And these bankable companies, they are providing a service, and they're doing business with financial institutions. They're paying their taxes. They're hiring people and paying salaries, and they're paying all manner of taxes, right?
Right.
Okay. I said taxes once, but I meant business taxes, not FICA and
Right.
county income, option income tax and those kinds of taxes. That's what your employees are going to do. This is what starts to get people paying attention to what you're doing.
Right.
Okay. So you create or grow the capacity of businesses. You either create those businesses or you grow the businesses. Okay. And then you scale the businesses up so that their reach isn't just local. Do you recognize that in America, there for a long time, people were just millionaires, right? And then and almost overnight, suddenly people were billionaires.
Right.
Do you know how they become billionaires?
International.
They have to globalize their products and services. They have to set up their companies in other countries. So the same goes in this local economy. So what does a person have? Let's say that they have a used tire store, right? There's enough used tires all over the place. But if they have a system of managing and growing and storing this inventory of used tires, they could create other outlets, around Allen County.
Right.
Okay.
And if they created a partnership with the Department of Transportation to somehow, shred down those tires and help repave streets, then that would be an even bigger collaboration that could be replicated.
Repave streets with rubber. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I was thinking more along the lines that if you were able to get those business scaled up, then what you would create is a owner or owners that had the private dollars.
Right.
Okay. They can not only aid in raising up the economic development, but also inserting representatives, political representatives that were, leaning towards development in the Southeast.
Yeah. So
Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. And we're going to close out with that, where to get our equity and to have our political equity, we first must invest in ourselves.
Yes.
We first must stop looking at what we can't do and focus on what can be done. And it's an adage here, Doc V always says, we're always stronger together. So if we put our minds together, we put our work together, we put everything together, we can get the representation, we can get the changes, we can get the equity, we can get all of that. But the first thing we need to do is get a we. We need to get a we and stop being all these different, if we can get that one we in this side, in our community, that can change a whole lot of things. So we thank you, Ramadan, again. And you're always welcome back at any point, and we thank you. And hopefully next time you're feeling better and we can have, because we can talk for hours.
Yeah.
And I do have to tell people real quick a little bit more in closing. Ramadan is also the president of the local Black Chamber of Commerce. He's a longtime business leader and business coach, and is a mentor to many I know. So, and also is a grandfather of a grandson, and also still helps his dad. So, if you see him on the street, give him a high five and tell him a little bit about what you're wondering about. Maybe we can build that ecosystem of these, astute business leaders.
Yes, that's what we do. But again, that's where we got to get to. We got to get to that one we.
That's my.
That's the hard. But we're going to get to it.
That's my mantra.
Get to that one we.
Yes.
So that's where we are. We thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you learned something. I hope that we're giving you some information. But again, we want you to learn how to use politics to get your political equity, to get the changes in your community, and to learn how to make politics work for you. We thank you again. And as we always say before we leave the people, always protect your mind. Thank you, and have a good night.